All right, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? All right, great. So for years, blockchain has been heralded as the next big technology impact for large financial institutions. But the adoption has really been more of a slow crawl rather than a sprint. Why is that? Well, there's one key fundamental piece that's missing from the puzzle, and it's non-negotiable, and that's on-chain privacy. Today, we're going to take a look back on how we got to the space we're in now, look at what things have been done to kind of progress this forward, and then finally, we're going to introduce an entirely new product that will change the way financial institutions work with blockchains going forward. My name is Nick Mussallem. I'm the CEO of AvaCloud. This is part one of a two-part series. Following me will be the Director of Product, Will Waltrip, who will take the concepts that I cover and take them all down to a step of more detail. Let's jump in. There we go. Okay, the dreaded friend zone. So are financial institutions, large ones, banks, interested in blockchain? Absolutely. They find it to be very interesting. The technology has tons of potential. But when it comes time to really make a commitment, we've kind of been put into this financial friend zone where pilots, yes, they're very much into doing pilots. Proof of concepts, absolutely. We do tons of proof of concepts. But when it comes down to real mainnet implementations, there's, well, hesitation on their part. And the hesitation and the reason they won't make a full commitment into moving all their infrastructure on-chain, given all the benefits that blockchain can give them, boils down to the lack of on-chain privacy. So I think of blockchain, when thinking about institutions, as this iceberg. And on top of the iceberg, you have these amazing qualities. You have this immutable ledger. You have enhanced transparency for everybody. You have immutable record keeping, great data hygiene. But as you get beneath the surface, that's where the problems start. So many of the problems that financial institutions are trying to solve are addressed in the blockchain. But what then pops up as new problems are things like sender-receiver privacy, balance secrecy, and which creates all kinds of regulatory issues and introduces new competitive risks. We'll dive more into this in a bit. So all of this, all these issues, these below the iceberg issues, essentially cause financial institutions to retrench. They basically retreated back to what they knew best, and that is these traditional database structures. These siloed data structures that then have to find a way to communicate with each other to do things like transaction matching. And there is an entire industry of middle and back office solutions that have built very big businesses solving these matching problems. They're basically taking one side of data and their own proprietary database and mixing it with another. We call this the financial Tower of Babel. So if you think about the Tower of Babel, it's essentially this grand vision, and this vision in this case is like a globally interoperating financial system. And as we got closer and closer and the promise of blockchain emerged, we realized that without the privacy capabilities, we weren't all going to be able to speak the same language because of these fundamental differences in the qualities that they need around interoperability and preserving certain things. So we ended up back in this high friction, my siloed database talks to your siloed database, we connect them in some way, and we figure things out. These different systems don't talk to each other well. They're extremely high cost to run, and they're also very difficult to integrate with, so integrations take a long time. So clearly we needed a solution set that started to address both confidentiality, but also interoperability. But before we dive into the solution set, let's go back to the problem set. So blockchains essentially have this transparency paradox, where the very thing that makes it so unique, all of these things, the promise of interoperability, the promise of open immutable ledgers that could be shared across globally, across multiple corporations, the promise of instant settlement, they all came with openness and transparency. That transparency is a real problem for financial institutions. Why? Because privacy of protecting their consumers or even their own data is non-negotiable. So they really couldn't lean into blockchain until the privacy problem was solved. Competitive disadvantage. So if I'm a large institution, let's just say I'm buy side, I'm running a large hedge fund, I don't want you to see what positions I'm getting in and out of. I don't want you to see large positions openly in the blockchain. If my balances or my sender receiver addresses, eventually, even if they're synonymous, you're eventually going to figure out who the big players are. All of this creates regulatory nightmares, like just GDPR alone. If you are exposing consumer data on chain, that is going to hinder how much adoption any of these institutions could have. It's just full of sanctions and fees. Ultimately, you're just going to get penalized. And then client trust. I don't want my private data exposed publicly, and I don't think anybody else does. So the goal here was, all right, we want this shared immutability, this interoperability, but we need it to do it in a way that's confidential. And that started this whole new wave of technologies that were focused on collaborating without revealing personal data. And this started the next wave. A lot of investment has gone in here, and it's not just for blockchain, and often these technologies are actually harder to implement on blockchains than they would be on just standalone traditional systems. So I am not the expert here, but I'll give you the mental models I use to think about these things. Homomorphic encryption. So I think of homomorphic encryption as like a sealed envelope with two numbers in it. And those two numbers can then be summed up to some function. You get the answer of what that sum is, but you never know what the data is underneath, and you never need to never need to open that envelope. Zero knowledge proofs. These are just great for, do I have enough money in the account to be able to buy this, coffee, right? So it's a way of looking into your account saying, yes, it's got enough. Go ahead and move forward with the transaction without actually exposing the underlying data, or just, are you an accredited investor? So without having to go through and prove all the assets that you own, you can just basically prove that you are an accredited investor by using zero knowledge proofs. And the last one is multi-party computation, which is basically two untrusting parties who both have data pieces that they want, and they want to get to some function of the two, but I don't want you to know what I have, and you don't want me to know what you have. So ultimately, you get the answer, but you don't understand the original data. These are the primitives that have enabled this next transformation of blockchain in institutional finance and large enterprise. Okay, so this is the turning point. We now have homomorphic encryption, zero knowledge proofs, and MPC, and this is moving from theory to practical application. The paradox of needing both collaboration and confidentiality is finally being resolved. So at the turning point we're at right now, if we go back, because blockchain arrived on the scene, everybody's like, oh, this is amazing, these immutable ledgers, all data is fully interoperable. We don't have to do all these integrations to talk to each other. But then it was like, ooh, it's open. And that got us put into the friend zone. All right, and so at that point, it's like, okay, you got to solve this confidentiality problem before we can go any further with you. And so at that point, they retrenched back into this Tower of Babel, which are these very inefficient systems that everybody knows needs to be upgraded. But until privacy is solved for it, nobody's moving forward. So this sets the table for the next move here. Like the ability to create these very robust, interoperable, clean data hygiene, no Tower of Babel systems that are fully compliant with sender and receiver. And that's why we created Avacy. Okay, Avacy is groundbreaking. It's an audible private asset transfer network that is fully compliant, built for the modern era of blockchain. It completely redefines what is possible by leveraging both fully atomic and private transactions built for public and private blockchains. It's incredibly lightweight, so proofs are generated in a half a second, and it runs on EVM, so it's compatible with everything. So obviously is redefining what is possible by taking private transactions, deploying them on standard blockchains. This is not like the beefy, you need this super hardware all in one data center. This is distributed out and ensuring that privacy is there, all while being fully compliant and meeting the highest standards for compliance needs. It is fully audible. All right, let's dig in. So what is Odyssey really going to do for us? One, true confidentiality and anonymity. So both sender, receiver, transaction balances, and just standard balances are all confidential, all private. Secondly, it's atomic, which means that if I send you something, you don't need to sign to retrieve it. This is huge. This is something that has not been deployed yet today. This ability for me to send you something and have it be a fully atomic transaction in sub-second time will completely change the way payments are done. It's got practical auditability. So there is a complete compliance module that's attached onto Odyssey that allows for you to have anybody go in and be able to look at transactions. And then it's just, from there on, it's just a foundation of leveraging all the benefits and all the promises that blockchain has been making forever to large financial institutions without having to sacrifice privacy. So what is it good for? Instant global payments, whether it be consumer payments, international remittance. It is absolutely custom built for these features. Also, RWA, or privatization of RWA issuance. You can issue any kind of assets you want privately using Odyssey. And then lastly, you can use it for private DeFi. So if you wanted to do DeFi where the transactions are confidential, you can leverage Odyssey to implement that. Okay, so what does this mean as we look towards 2025 and beyond? It means we're not just talking about an incremental change in technology for financial institutions. We're talking about a fundamental re-architecting how value is exchanged and managed globally. For too long, the immense potential of blockchain has been hindered by this missing piece. This privacy component, the ability to have confidentiality and anonymity in your transactions. Those days are gone. And obviously is the vanguard of this transformation. It's not just part of the future, it's actually building this new financial world. It's going to be more secure and fundamentally more confidential than anything has ever existed before. And the best part is that Odyssey is available now. This is not some future promise. This technology is fully available to you through the AvaCloud team, which will guide you through the entire processes with the best client services team in the industry. Thank you very much.